The Boys has reached its third season, and today I'm going to review it. I won't be talking about any spoilers or anything in this video. There's not really too much to go into, so I'll keep it relatively vague. But in terms of my thoughts on the rest of the show, I think this is the best superhero show, or in contender of being the best superhero show of all time. It's definitely the most fun, unique, satirical, and audacious superhero show you'll ever watch, where it actually takes a realistic approach to all of these things and creates characters who are fully in moral gray areas the entire time, and that's what I love about this show so much, along with the style of it all and the satire. I think it's awesome. I think this first season was brilliantly built up. It was all build up, and the second season was mostly payoff from that first season. And I think the second season is magnificent. I love the second season of the show. It ends on such a high note and begins relatively strong as well. Season three, I think, just like the second season, builds very, very well, and most of it is build up. But when season two sort of hit the ground running around episode three, this one sort of stepped it up around in the second episode. The first episode is mainly just rekindling where we are and resetting up. The second episode then takes it and throws us right into another scenario and makes for a really intriguing season for the rest of the runtime. And episode 6 in particular, an episode called Herogasm, was insane. Easily my favorite episode of the season, and probably my favorite episode of the show so far. It had the best drama involved in it, the best superhero action, the most epicness, and also the best conflicts between everyone. And that's what I think The Boys season 3 does the best. I think it honestly has the best superhero satire over the others. I think it has some of the strongest character work, but the thing that I think season 3 hopefully does the best was the conflicts within the story and the characters, and how these characters are pinned against one another and conflicting one another all the time. And I think they did a really good job crafting that throughout the season and making that the center of the tension, not something larger scale. And I think they did a really, really good job of that while still keeping it fun to watch. It was very, very intense. Let's talk about some of the characters as well in this show. They introduced a new character, Soldier Boy. I won't go too much into his story, but I liked his role in this series, and he was a more unique character. I liked what he had to do towards the end. I thought he made for a great antagonist, and I liked him in the series. And he's sort of playing off that Captain America sort of war hero vibe, but doing it in a different way, where this guy's just he's just a horrible human being, like someone sort of in that time who was made to be patriotic, Americanized, in that time, would have probably acted like this. And it's interesting seeing him in modern day. Homelander is by far one of the greatest TV villains and probably one of the greatest superhero villains of all time. This guy is terrifying every time he's on screen, and Anthony Starr's performance is chilling to watch. And in this season, we learn a lot about his character and more of the gray areas within him. There's actually times where you can kind of you've always understood why he acts the way he does, but in this, there's more conflict within his mind in this season that I thought was really, really well done. And some of his chilling line delivery here is fantastic. Speech he gives in the second episode gave me chills, and his final scene in this season was fantastic and a huge shift for the show, and it truly sets up a lot of tension for the fourth season. And a lot of this season was built up. It felt like we got one episode that was fairly slow, one episode that was really fast, one episode that was slow, one episode that was fast, and it kept going at that pacing, the back and forth pacing. And in a way, that's where one of the issues led into this show, was to sort of the pacing. It didn't feel like it was constantly getting better. It felt like it kept dipping up and down in the conflicts we were getting. But the episodes that really stuck out to me and the scenes that stuck out, I thought were great. And I thought the drama was excellent between these characters. Other characters, such as Billy Butcher, are more on edge than ever. And the stuff with him taking the temporary compound V, I thought was really intriguing. I liked his relationship with Huey in this season. Those two characters are more on the same side here. Huey and Stark's relationship is kind of tilted a little bit. And I liked Huey's arc. Definitely the character who you can relate to most in the series, and the character you follow the show and all these crazy things through. Annie January as Starlight, I think this character is great, and the superhero persona of her completely vanishes in this season. And that's what I love about that character, because every time she's in the suit and everything, she just doesn't feel right. And this is the one character who is truly like, there's no gray area in this character. This character is purely just a good person, and all the other characters in the show feel like they're kind of a mix between like a criminal and a person that you understand exactly why they're doing who they're why they're doing what they're doing. But this character is just purely good hearted, and seeing her story here, she has quite an emotional narrative here, and a lot of great conflict with Homelander that I thought was really, really excellent. Easily one of the strongest characters in the show. I liked her teaming up with MM, and I liked his story also. And I thought he had quite an emotional story and arc to go on in this season as well. And his revenge against Soldier Boy, I thought, was a really intriguing way to give that character more to do in the narrative. And then you've got Frenchie and Kimiko off doing their own little musical stuff, which I thought was really fun. I don't know, I kind of enjoyed it. The musical sequence was fine. It was only the one time, but I enjoyed it. I didn't really mind what they did with those characters. They didn't have as much to do in the narrative, but once the finale came around, they gave each character something important to do, and they had a pretty epic fight at the end. I thought Queen Maeve, despite being sidelined for a lot of episodes, she wasn't even in majority of them, still had a solid story here, and I think they've put that character to rest fairly nicely. The Deep is hilariously frustrating, and A-Train surprisingly has a good arc here as well. That I did not expect. I hated that character before, as you're supposed to, but I actually kind of liked him and understood him in this season a lot more. And it was the first season where I actually felt for that character in any form of way, and I liked the arc they gave him. I liked they changed these superheroes a little more. It feels like Homelander's just the last pure evil one left, and his relationship with Ryan and Billy's relationship with Ryan, I think that's a really intriguing story that I think that's where season 4 will have to go and they have to focus on, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. And most of season 3 does feel like build up, but it still has the best batch of episodes this show has seen so far. And the finale, I've seen people not really like the finale, say it doesn't move things forward enough to the overall narrative. I thought it was great. I mean, it wasn't the best episode of the show. I still prefer season 2's finale over this one, but I still thought it concluded very nicely, and I thought the relevant themes, the thematics of the show were more important here, and the satire was really strong as well, not just to create drama and relevant themes, but also to create a lot of comedy, and it really works in a lot of ways, and I love the style of the satire. It's done very, very well, and I love the gore and the audacity, people blowing up, all of the crazy crap you see in this show. It's just insane, and I love it. It's diabolically fun to watch, and I loved every episode of season 3. I don't know if it's my favorite season. I'm pretty much equal on every season of this show. It's just a pretty solid drama. I have my favorite episodes, and that's about it. But I couldn't really pick my favorite season, but I think this is just as good as what we've seen before. In areas, it definitely improves, and I think season 3 of The Boys is another reason as to why this is my favorite superhero show of all time. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. I loved every development piece. I love every cause of conflict they created. I still think the show is beautifully shot. It's very well made. The CGI and stuff they use to do the superhero stuff is fantastic, but that's not the focus. I don't care about any of that stuff, and the show knows that I don't. I care about the way it's ripping off it, the way it's using the satire to play on how realistic something like superheroes in the world would actually be, and what type of people they would be, and what type of people would try and stop or expose that. And that's what I've always loved about this show, and this season I thought did a great job of doing that, but also focusing on the psychology of the characters a little more and the conflicts of those characters, but also having way more fun as well. The season was a blast and very intense. The tension really hit high in about episode 6, and despite you feel like it doesn't lead to as much, it's just building up. A lot of it is building up, and then we get the payoffs in later seasons, I'm assuming. And that's what I'm looking forward to. But I can see how some could say by the end of this season it feels like nothing much has overall changed, but I think relationships have grown, tension has grown, and the world in the characters are in have changed significantly. So I do think season 3 hits everything for a great next season, and I'm honestly loving this show. I think it's fantastic. I rewatched it all very, very quickly to lead up to season three, which is why I'm reviewing it a bit late. But overall, I think The Boys season three was excellent. I loved it just as much as the other seasons. And despite a few moments where I felt certain episodes were a lot slower than others, and I was kind of waiting for the show to pick back up to where it was, I still had a blast here, and episode 6 was pretty fantastic. I'm going to give The Boys season 3 an A, and I'm also going to give this a 9 out of 10. Guys, if you've not seen The Boys yet and you love superhero content, you have to see this, and it's fantastic. It's so much fun. Yeah, I love The Boys, and season 3 was great also, so go check it out.